Just physically, how did he feel?
I'm ready to rock, baby.
So look, Travis Kelce is not only healthy, but safety Derwin James is suspended, and last year, Kelce had 12 catches for 179 yards and a touchdown against the Chargers. And Kelce is just one player of many to watch in this game, so I've got to talk about that, several key starters injured for LA, some recent roster moves the Chiefs made, and more. So let's talk about it. But first, how about those? All right, first up, I want to talk about a flurry of roster moves the Chiefs have made over the last few days because there's been quite a bit. For starters, the Chiefs waived running back Keontae Ingram from the 53-man roster and signed running back Kareem Hunt to the active roster. Ingram then cleared waivers and re-signed to the practice squad. Then, KC brought back a familiar face and tight end Jody Fortson yesterday, signing him to the practice squad. And to make room for Fortson, and the reason why they brought him in is because they had to add Baylor Cupp, another tight end that was on the practice squad, to the injured list. And with Fortson being a free agent, a guy that is pretty familiar with the Chiefs' system, this was a no-brainer move. I don't expect to get much playing time out of Fortson right now, but he is a guy who, again, knows the playbook and can be leaned upon in case of emergency. And those moves made the practice squad full at 17. Meanwhile, the Chiefs actually still have one spot available on the 53-man roster. There's only 52 players active, and it leads me to wonder if they will potentially be adding back Clyde Edwards-Helaire to the active roster after this game. He spent the first 4 weeks on the NFI list, but can come off of it after Sunday's matchup against the Chargers, and that's just a guess for me at the moment, and we will find out either way next week. From here, I've got to dive into this matchup against the Chargers and hopefully give several optimistic reasons why the Chiefs should hopefully win this game, as well as a look at a starter along the D-line who's already been ruled out. But before I do, I've got my pick'ems in for this weekend with the season-long partner of the channel, Underdog. This is the best and easiest place to play fantasy sports, so make sure to get in on the action for this weekend's games if you haven't already. New customers get up to $1,000 in bonus cash, plus a Mahomes gimme pick by using code HBTC, and we were so close last week. We hit 4 of 5, just needed a Chris Jones sack, which he sadly did not get. But my pick'em start this week with the easy Mahomes gimme pick. Half a yard, I like that. Then DK Metcalf is coming off of back-to-back 100-yard games, and I feel good about him getting more than 61.5 receiving yards against the Lions. Next up, Rashee Rice. He's on the injury report with an ankle, full participant. He's going to play, but I am going to roll with the higher on Travis Kelce catching 4.5 receptions. He had 4 catches last week and would have had 5 if not for that 3rd and 2 drop. Plus, he normally eats against the Chargers, and Chargers safety Derwin James will not play in this game due to that 1-game suspension. Then, Xavier Worthy has ran for an average of 13 yards a game and had 3 carries last week, so I like the higher on half of a rushing yard. And finally, Aaron Jones is up against his former team in the Packers and had over 100 rushing yards last week. So I like him carrying the ball for more than 58.5 rushing yards. So there we go. I put a quick $15 down on this for a chance to win 18x on my money. And whether you agree or disagree here, you can sign up using code HBTC to build your own pick'ems for this weekend. Again, any new signups will get up to $1,000 in bonus cash plus that Mahomes gimme pick, so let's freaking go. Next up, Andy Reid spoke to the media today and basically said everybody will play against the Chargers, aside from one player, defensive end Mike Danna. He noted that Danna's calf flared up on him, and he did pop up on the injury report, being the only player ruled out. Andy Reid said, quote, "We'll probably end up holding him out of the game until we get that thing calmed down a bit." And while that is a bummer, part of me wonders if Danna has been playing injured for a little while now. And the only reason I'm questioning that is because currently Danna's win percentage when rushing the passer is only 4%. That is very low. I mean, look at where Danna is on this graphic here. The further down and to the left you are, the worse off it is, and he is definitely down there on his own little island. So hey, give the guy some time to heal up and get right. And in the meantime, that means pass rusher Cam Thomas may get his first go with KC now that Danna is out. Andy Reid kind of alluded to that in his presser today when asked about it. The question is, how many snaps will Cam Thomas actually get? That's to be determined. He was a guy that the Chiefs traded for in exchange for a 7th-round pick from the Cardinals during roster cutdowns. The 6'4", 267-pound pass rusher had 3 sacks during Arizona's preseason games. And if we go a bit further back in time, Cam was a 3rd-round pick back in 2022 for the Cardinals, appearing in all 17 games his rookie season and 15 last year. And over those 2 seasons, he racked up 40 tackles, 3 sacks, and 1 fumble recovery. He has the ability to kick inside as well. That's something Mike Danna could do, so that is nice, and accumulated a near 10% pressure rate during his time in the NFL, which isn't bad for a rotational pass rusher and is currently like 2.5 times the pressure rate that Mike Danna is able to output. And even with the addition of Cam Thomas, something I would like to see from the Chiefs' defensive line is a more effective pressure on the quarterback. Kelce is currently 5th in blitz rate, but 26th in pressure rate. Yeah, that's bottom right now, which is definitely less than ideal. Charles Omenihu's return, whenever that is, probably sometime after the bye week, most likely in November, will definitely be an added boost to this, but it's not going to help them in this upcoming game. One thing Kansas City's D-line will miss, though, is Mike Danna's effectiveness against the run. He's the highest graded run defender along the line per PFF, so he's struggled rushing the passer, but has been very solid against the run, and the Chargers are a definite run-heavy team. J.K. Dobbins is 3rd in rushing yards, just behind Jordan Mason of the Niners and Saquon Barkley of the Eagles, but Dobbins leads the entire NFL in yards per attempt, at least among those who have carried the ball 25 or more times. His average is 7.4 yards per carry, which is actually insane. Overall, the Chargers are the 7th best team in the league on the ground, rushing for an average of 152 yards per game. The good news about the Chiefs' defense, though, is that they've done an incredible job limiting opponents' main running backs, their RB1s this season. Week 1, they held Derrick Henry to 13 carries for 46 yards, a 3.5 average, and 1 touchdown. Week 2, they held Zach Moss to 12 carries for 34 yards, a 2.8 average. And then in Week 3, they held the explosive and ever so elusive Bijan Robinson to 16 carries for 31 yards. That's an average of 1.9 yards per carry, and a big ol' yikes for him, but a big ol' W for KC's run defense. So through 3 games, KC is allowing just 30 yards or so from their opponent's RB1. That's some good news if you are a Chiefs fan. Anyway, that's going to be one of the biggest keys of this game. Can the Chiefs slow down the Chargers' run game? That'll be a major emphasis of the team in this matchup, with Jim Harbaugh now at command and Greg Roman, their offensive coordinator. A dominant O-line with an effective run game and a stout defense is their very DNA. And while I'll get to their defense in a moment, I do want to mention that the Chargers offense is dealing with some pretty big injuries at the moment. For starters, quarterback Justin Herbert is dealing with a high ankle sprain that got worse last week against the Steelers and forced him to quit playing, to sit out the rest of the game in the second half. It was sometime in the 3rd quarter. Justin Herbert wants to play this week, especially given the fact that he's up against a division rival in the Chiefs, but wisdom should have him rest this week. The Chargers have a bye week the following week, and that'll allow him to get that ankle right, or at least much closer to right. 2 weeks off on that bad boy. That's so it doesn't become too problematic for him down the road. Another reason why they very well may opt to sit him is because both of their starting tackles will not be playing in this game. Right tackle Joe Alt is out with an MCL sprain, and left tackle Rashawn Slater is dealing with a pec strain. On top of that, one of their other tackles, Trey Pipkins, has been dealing with a foot injury, and if he plays, I think he will, but he probably is not going to be 100% out there. So that's why I think Justin Herbert could sit, and Taylor Heineke is going to be the next QB up, because why would you risk putting Herbert out there behind a makeshift O-line and potentially further injure that ankle? I've seen crazier things happen, though, so we'll have to wait and see who ends up playing. I would assume, we'll see the injury report in a bit, I'll assume Justin Herbert is questionable, and we'll go over that at the end of this video, but it could be a little bit of smoke and mirrors from the Chargers, so the Chiefs don't exactly know who to plan for. Now, I do think the injuries on the O-line could affect the Chargers' effectiveness to run the ball in this game as well. The Chiefs will need to be on their toes in the middle of the field, watching out for LA's tight ends in Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst. That's been a definite weakness of the team so far this season, giving up buku yards to tight ends. And while the Chargers haven't done a ton in the passing game. They have been effective as needed. Quentin Johnston certainly looks better out there this season, and they have the Irishman, Ladd McConkey, their second-round pick, as a target out there also. I do have faith in Trent McDuffie and company, and I'm not extremely worried here by LA's offense, especially with the injuries on the O-line and Justin Herbert. Now, something worth noting is the Chiefs' defense is 13 in the NFL at stopping opponents in the red zone, which is pretty good, and the Chargers have struggled just about as badly as the Chiefs' offense at scoring touchdowns in the red zone. The Chargers are ranked 24th, scoring a touchdown just 42% of the time. Meanwhile, the Chiefs' offense is actually ranked 22nd. And on that note, let's flip sides to the offensive side of the ball for KC, who has struggled through 3 weeks of football in the red zone, and are also 21st in the NFL, converting just 35% of their third down attempts. That is way down from previous years. A relatively anemic stat in the red zone and on third down from Mahomes and Andy Reid on offense. But in spite of that, KC is still 6th in the NFL in points per game, averaging 25 a pop. And if they can fix a couple of small things, Mahomes and him getting back to the basics with his throwing mechanics and making better throws when needed, he's self-admitted that to the media more than once, KC should be averaging much closer to 30 points per game rather than 25. It's not all on Mahomes, though. There's been a drop here or there, as well as breakdowns along the offensive line that has thrown off his timing, especially if you look at the left side. That's thrown Mahomes a bit out of whack. For what it's worth, though, Wanya Morris did a pretty decent job last week against Atlanta, and the Chargers are most likely going to be without pass rusher Joey Bosa, who didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday after aggravating a hip injury against the Steelers. That man, sadly, he's one of the best in the business, but he has hurt a freaking lot. Now, that leaves Khalil Mack and Tuli Tuipulotu. And I imagine the matchup to watch will be Wanya Morris against Khalil Mack. If KC can mitigate that, Mahomes should have time in the pocket to go through his reads in this one. It also hurts that the Chargers do not have safety Derwin James for this game. He got suspended for one game. It's this game against KC after lowering the crown of his helmet to make a tackle last week. This was a repeat offense for James that the league warned him about before the start of this season. So while the simpletons cry about the NFL doing all they can to make sure the Chiefs win this game, it actually just so happened to be Derwin James's fault. He made another poor attempt of a tackle in 2024 a week ago. Had he not done that, he would be playing in this game. So save your tears for someone who actually takes pity on conspiracy theorists, because you're not going to find that here, you little dum-dums. Anyway, Derwin James is typically the guy to match up against Travis Kelce, so I do think Kelce has a bit of a bounce-back game this week. He loves going off against the Chargers as it is, and with Rice coming off another monster game, he is on the injury report with an ankle, but has fully practiced all week. He's going to play. I don't know if that will affect him, but he's still coming off another monster game and could demand enough attention in the middle of the field at times that it gets Travis Kelce open. They've got Asante Samuel out there as well in the secondary, so even with Derwin out, they got guys. Samuel, Christian Fulton, Elijah Molden, and Denzel Perryman have all been pretty decent out there in coverage. I will say, though, the Chiefs can't sleep on this LA defense because they are a top 5 unit in most categories, or very close to it. They have allowed the 6th fewest yards per game, are the 2nd best red zone defense, and 3rd best scoring defense, allowing an average of only 11 points per game. Here's the thing about these stats, though. Through 3 weeks of the season, the Chargers played against Gardner Minshew and the Raiders, Bryce Young and the Panthers, and then Justin Fields and the Steelers. The Steelers have a really, really good defense, but if you look at who they played against, this is 3 very not so good offenses in the NFL. The Panthers and Steelers especially, they are bottom of the barrel as far as offensive output goes. Raiders are closer to middle of the pack, but still, I do think this inflated the Chargers' defensive stats. So this will be the Chargers' first test against a much better offense. I'm curious to see what the Chiefs' plan at running back is as well, especially with Pacheco on IR, Kareem Hunt now signed to the 53-man roster, and Steele and Pirine in the rotation. Now, Hunt said he's ready to help shock the world this Sunday and let the media know during his presser earlier this week that he's still got it. However, he's only been here a little over a week, so I think he rotates in, but Carson Steele, in theory, should still see most of the work. I'm not confident enough in that, though, to bet my house on it, so we'll just see how it plays out. But if the Chiefs can play some clean football, get some runs going, matriculate the ball down the field, score a couple times in the red zone without turnovers, and the defense plays up to their typical standard, I really don't see how the Chiefs lose this game, given the fact that the Chargers are already missing a piss ton of players due to injuries, plus the Chargers are 3-17 against the Chiefs since 2014 and have lost 10 straight home games to KC. You combine that with the fact that everybody and their mother is picking KC to win. This should, Lord willing, not be a trap game. Please, God, don't let it be a trap game. And the Chiefs should win their first comfortable game in quite some time. However, this is the Kansas City Chiefs we are talking about. They love a close down-to-the-wire game that spikes your blood pressure higher than the Himalayas and have proven that through 3 weeks of the 2024 season so far. So I'm not going to rule out the possibility of a 3-point game down to the wire. However, I'm going to go with the Chiefs winning by a score of 24-14. And I hope I'm right about it not being a one-score game, but let me know your thoughts on that score prediction in the comments down below. And before I get out of here, let's take a look at the final injury report because there's quite a bit going on, especially for the Chargers. All right, there are some injuries to talk about for the Chiefs, but most of this is going to be the Chargers. You got Nick Bolton with the back, fully participated all week. Derek Nottie, triceps, full go all week. Rashee Rice popped up with an ankle, but like everybody else, full go all week. Jalen Watson, shoulder. I don't know if that's like a new tweak to the shoulder he had operated on in the offseason and rehabbed back from, or if he's been on the injury report this whole time. I guess we could actually verify that rather quickly here. If we look at week 3, yeah, he's been on there. So I think this isn't new. Jalen Watson's shoulder has been on there, and mainly when you're going through injury reports like this, if you pop up on there, yeah, he wasn't on there week 1, actually. So it just means he's getting treatment on the shoulder, and you have to report that. But since he's a full go, I am not overly concerned about Jalen Watson and his shoulder. Chamari Connor popped up with a heel, and this was on Thursday, but full go Thursday, Friday. None of these guys have game designations, okay? But Mike Danna is the guy that popped up with the calf, did not participate Thursday, tried to give it a go during this Friday walkthrough. Andy Reid said no go, and I think it's worth mentioning that means Felix Anudike-Uzomah, if he doesn't start, he's going to get a lot of reps in this game, so we'll see what the former first-round pick from last year has in the tank, getting a ton of reps. We saw him in preseason not making a ton of splash plays, but hey, you're going against some backup tackles, so maybe Felix Anudike-Uzomah makes some plays in this game. He's had a couple this season so far, a big hit on Kirk Cousins and a fumble recovery in either week 1 or week 2 against the Ravens or the Bengals. Now, if we get back to the very insane injury report for the Chargers, I mean, this is half the team, and it's week 3 every single year for this team. They're going through hell. I don't even understand it. I'm not going to go through all the statuses by day or anything. It would be way too much. The main ones to watch out for is anybody questionable. Joe Alt with the MCL sprain on his knee is questionable. We'll see. I don't know why you'd want to risk rushing him out there, but if he feels good to go, that would be a much-needed relief for the Chargers and their O-line. But Joey Bosa is out with the hip. Junior Colson, a linebacker, is out as well. Darius Davis is the team's returner, and he went from limited on Wednesday to a DNP Thursday, Friday with the hamstring, questionable. So we'll see what goes on with him. Christian Fulton, cornerback with the knee, he was upgraded to full on Friday from limited Wednesday, Thursday. He's questionable, probably going to play. Justin Herbert was limited all week at practice, listed as questionable. That's going to be a game time decision. They're going to keep the cards close to their vest, and they're not going to give any hints to the Chiefs on who to prepare for, whether it's Justin Herbert or Taylor Heineke. And then Dean Leonard, cornerback with the hamstring, popped up limited on Friday, questionable. We'll see. But this is a couple guys beat up in the secondary. And then I think the last one to look at is Jasir Taylor, another corner with his fibula. Limited DNP on Friday. That's trending downwards towards not playing. And then left tackle Rashawn Slater with the pec is officially out. So that's a big one. Rashawn Slater, their starting left tackle, is out. And then Joey Bosa, you know, one of their best outside linebackers or defensive ends, he is out as well. And then Joe Alt is questionable. The Chargers are banged up, man, but they want to win this game bad. If not, you go to 2-2 and you fall a couple games behind the Chiefs before your bye week. But they're just dealing with so many injuries. I have the Chiefs winning. Let me know your thoughts on this, all the injuries, and again, your score prediction in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?